You've told your customer no, or you've given them bad news, and now you're getting pushback. The customer is going back and forth with you because they don't like what they've heard. They restate their points. You restate what you hope will be your final answer. This is what we call a circular conversation, a conversation that just goes in circles with no clear ending in sight. How do you get out of the circular conversation and guide your customer off of your phone or off of the chat? That's coming up in this video. When you want to end a conversation with a customer, a conversation that is just going in circles, a lot of back and forth because a customer doesn't like what you've told them, you are going to have to assert your authority. You're going to have to be clear, and you're going to speak with finality, and you're going to have to validate the customer. They have to feel heard and understood. Otherwise, they get stuck in the emotional right brain. I have 6 things that you can say that will validate the customer, position you as assertive, and guide both of you to the end of the conversation. The first thing that I want you to say to get out of a circular conversation is, we realize this is frustrating for you. And then I want you to explain why you cannot honor the customer's request. If there are any next steps, this is your opportunity to present those to your customer. Now, if your customer is in the emotional right brain, they are going to be more talkative, and it is going to be harder for you to get them to accept your word as final. So I created this statement. We realize this is frustrating. I created that to help you get the customer out of the emotional right brain. We have to pause for a moment and talk about the brain as we're dealing with our customers. Now, we know that we have 2 sides to the brain. We have the right emotional brain, which is where we experience every emotion: joy, grief, love, anger. And then we have the rational left brain. The left brain is where you are when you are negotiating or doing taxes or anything analytical. When you tell a customer no, or you give them bad news, you tell them anything they don't want to hear, your customer goes to the emotional right brain. If the customer is in the right brain, they're going to be more talkative. They are going to be more fierce in making their case. They're likely to overtalk you or want to speak to a manager. So when you say something like, we realize this is frustrating for you, what you're doing is you're validating the customer. You are making them feel heard and understood. So lead in with a statement like, we realize this is frustrating. Now, I have a client where they have a situation where it's a hard no. It's a trash and sanitation company. And let's say the team that picks up trash and recycling forgot to pick up someone's trash. It happens. They're out there, but they miss it. They're in a hurry. Whatever the reason, they miss it. Customer calls in and they want the company to come out and make a special trip just to pick up their trash or recycling. That can't happen. So I led my client to say no, leading with, we realize how frustrating this is. Let's take a look. We realize this is frustrating for you, and I'd like to explain. Not only is an unplanned stop not feasible with scheduling, but regulation doesn't allow it. We're regulated by the state of Washington and the Utility Transportation Commission and must abide by planned routes. What we can do is pick up your recycling on June 19th. What I want you to do here is make sure that you validate the customer's feelings and give the full reason. And in this case, there's a lot that you need to say. Your justification might be shorter. If you just tell your customer what you can't do, you're likely to get pushback. So I want you to try instead to validate your customer, move them out of that emotional right brain by explaining what you can do and why you can't do what the customer wants you to do. You're going to be far more successful if you go in that route. All right, here's the second phrase I want us to take a look at. We won't be able to. We know we can't just say no. I want you to always be diplomatic when your actual answer is no, when that is your final answer. When you lead in with, we won't be able to, that sounds gentler. Now, I had to use this phrase, we won't be able to, myself with a client. I have been working with a brand for several months and or discussing training with a brand for several months. Gave them a contract, and after 5 months, they had still not signed the contract, although they were very interested. Now, I had a fee increase. I increased my fees during the time, between the time that we first talked and when they were finally ready to sign the contract. And the thing is, I was not able to give them the initial fee. My client was shocked, if not angry. Certainly they were disappointed and they wanted me to roll back to the initial fee. Fee integrity is extremely important to me. It would not be fair for me to give this company my former fee when everyone else during the fee update is paying my new fee. So my answer was no. I was not able to roll back. And I wanted to be careful with that no. I needed to be assertive. I needed to be firm. I needed to be polite. Here's how I said no to my customer using the phrase that I'm giving you. I said, we don't negotiate our fees. We won't be able to work together on this. So there's a phrase, we won't be able to work together. I hope you find the perfect facilitator for your retreat and that the event is a complete success. Now the answer is still no, and we won't be able to work together. But I was professional. I was clear, diplomatic, and final. That's what I want you to do. So try the phrase, we won't be able to. It can be the first thing you say, or you can embed that in your conversation. I respect your opinion. Make that statement, and then I want you to explain why you can't honor the request. This statement is another tactic to keep your customer out of that emotional right brain. You're validating the customer so that they don't get stuck on venting, over-explaining, being emotional in any way. Here's a way that I've helped a client do just this, using I respect your opinion. I respect your opinion. Our company policy is not to pay claims involving consumer error. We have a responsibility to the company to uphold the integrity of our products. As long as a product performs as expected and has no defects, we cannot accept responsibility and provide financial assistance. So you always want to lead in such a way that you validate the customer's perspective. When they are validated, they don't have to get stuck in the right brain. They don't have to love it, but they just don't get stuck, which makes your job easier. We cannot. Make the statement, we cannot, and then explain to your customer why you can't honor their request. You're noticing, I'm sure, the theme of always giving an explanation. One way to disarm anger and de-escalate is to explain, give an explanation, a justification. One of my clients is an optometrist office, and a frequent request is for someone who wears contacts to call in and want a refill to their prescription. Their eyes have not changed. They don't want to come into the eye doctor. They just want a refill. But the problem is my client cannot do that. No optometrist in the US can do that because the industry is regulated by the FDA. Patients have to come in at least annually for a checkup before they can get a new prescription. So here's how I use this phrase with my optometrist client. We cannot refill your expired contact lens prescription. The FDA regulates us, and the FDA does not allow us to refill expired contact lenses. To purchase contact lenses, you must see an optometrist annually. Can I schedule an appointment for you now, or do you prefer to call us back? The answer is no, but what you're doing is giving an explanation, guiding the customer to the next steps, and even giving them an option. We can do this for you now, or it's up to you. You can call us back. But that's you being assertive and final, putting the ball in the customer's corner and wrapping that circular conversation up. To prevent this from happening in the future, I'd like to blank. This tactic psychologically primes your customer to think ahead to the future, to go toward the options that you present, both of which help you get the customer off of the phone or off of the chat faster. Here's an example. To prevent this from happening in the future, I'd like to give you some tips on how to care for your flex band. When we disconnect, I'll send you our care instructions. Do you see the priming there? I'd like to give you some tips on how you can care for this in the future. So future as in when we get beyond this chat, when we disconnect this phone call. I'll send you our care instructions implies that you are disconnecting and will take the next steps. When you combine this phrase to prevent this from happening in the future with the psychological priming that's embedded in the entire explanation, you are moving your customer in a psychological way to closure, and your job is so much easier. My final tactic is another tactic that I created to get your customer out of that emotional right brain and guide them to the next steps and out of the conversation. Here's all you do. Say, I agree. Regrettably, that's not possible because. Really simple formula. And here's an example of how you'll do that. I agree that we need to get someone to look at your lawn as quickly as possible. That's you validating. People want to be validated. That shows that you're listening. Empathy is in that. There's so much in this statement. Regrettably, all our technicians and managers are out serving other customers now, and the schedule for the remainder of the day is full. We can book a technician for you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Will that work? I love this phrase. It may be my favorite because it guides you. It tells you exactly what to do in 2 steps and guides you and the customer off of that chat, off of the phone. So it's simply, I agree, blank. Regrettably, that's not possible because. I want you to always talk to your customers, write to your customers from your assertive self. Assertive people say what they mean. They mean what they say, and they're not mean when they say it. By using my phrases and coming from a place of assertiveness, you will be able to say no, give bad news, deny a request, and get your customers to accept your word as final. I believe in you. You got this. Now, if you find you need more help, more support, I want you to check out my De-escalation Academy. All right, until next time.